Hi guys, Jeankool here again. Today it's about time we had an analog vlog. So today we're going to talk about analog photography. Specifically today we're going to talk about the Canon AV-1 and the Yashica FR, which I used to shoot two rolls of Fujifilm Superia 200. It's the kind of film you can get at the drugstore, or if you live in the Netherlands like I do, at the HEMA. It basically is good for your everyday snapshot type of deal. I put it to the test. Currently I'm also testing out some Ilford HP5 black and white film and Portra 400 as well. So I will show you guys how that turned out in a later vlog. Let's get to the cameras. Analog. It really makes you slow down and let the picture take you, and just take in the scenery and get your settings right. The AV-1 I think is a great camera because it's got Canon's DSLRs also has an AV mode, which is a aperture priority mode, which speeds up things a little bit because you've got manual focus as well. I mean, these cameras didn't have autofocus, which speeds things up a lot. So the cool thing is you can just dial in your aperture, and then you can see inside there will be a little needle that shows you what the shutter speed will be. Speeds things up a lot. You can set the ISO of your film right here. People tend to call it the film speed. The Superia 200 I shot was ISO 200. Right off the bat I can tell you, let's talk about the camera first. Great lens, very sharp, not a lot to say. I'm not going to do an in-depth review of the camera. The light seals are all good. It's got an auto mode, which is aperture priority. It's got a 60th of a second flash mode that you can put it in, and a bulb mode as well. It's got a self timer. Let me just see what this one. Oh, this one doesn't have a self timer. This one does. That's a lever there. You just flick it and it'll slowly come back, and when it's upright it'll take a picture. So yeah, one thing I really appreciate about this camera is Canon had already thought about the half press. Meaning when you do a half press, it'll measure the light, and when it's not pressed or half pressed, then you don't use any batteries. Whereas with this camera you have to turn on the light meter, which is okay I think, but this one is dodgy. I'll talk about this in a second. It uses 6-volt batteries, which you can still get, which is cool because some cameras use those little button gumdrop type of deals, which I don't like to use. And also they've got, if you don't have the lens cap on, then it uses your batteries because the light meter doesn't switch off. So I think this is probably my favorite camera of the ones that I use at the moment. This is Yashica, which is quite similar. It's got good lenses as well. It's I don't know, it doesn't make as much noise as this one. This isn't noisy at all. It sounds a little bit more sophisticated. The problem with this thing though is the light meter is dodgy, which means that you kind of have to use the Sunny 16 rule. If you don't know what that is, I will link it in the description below so you can check that out. So you can do full manual mode with this one. It doesn't have any automatic modes. But yeah, if the light meter is dodgy, then it doesn't matter anyways. What this light meter does is it gives you an indication of if you are correctly exposed or over or underexposed. You can set your shutter speed there, and you can dial in your aperture around here. So the rest is kind of the same. I think this one's a little bit heavier. Both made in Japan, great cameras. Let me just talk about the film real quick, and then I'll show you some of the pictures I took. One thing that you have to remember with film is that it's better to overexpose than to underexpose. Because if you underexpose, there just wasn't enough light, so there's not enough detail captured on film. Whereas if something's overexposed, because it's a chemical reaction, it works different from a camera sensor, you can always get a lot of detail back. But with digital, it's better to underexpose than to overexpose, because you cannot get any digital information back from something that's been overexposed. Usually you can get information from the shadows again. So two different ways of exposing. I realized that I had to overexpose in post quite a bit. I don't know if do I like Superia. I don't know, if you want cheap film and you're good at, you like doing stuff in post, then you can do a lot with it. I would probably recommend Portra, but I haven't developed that yet, but I'm expecting it to be better. So you can probably overexpose the film by 1 to 2 stops, depending on the situation. I think if you're going to do like a portrait, you don't have to overexpose too much, especially if things are close up, especially with this film. When you've got more landscapey stuff or stuff that's more farther away, I would definitely overexpose. How do you overexpose? In manual mode, you can just select an aperture that's a stop higher, for example. If you've got an aperture priority mode camera like the Canon AV-1, I would suggest lying to your camera by setting the ISO lower, and you'll get an overexposed shot. Some cameras also have an overexpose or exposure setting. I will show you my top 15. There's about 60 pictures I took. I will show you the original picture, like the scanned-in one without any corrections. You can see how it turned out. And if you want to see what I did in post, you can check out my Instagram, which is at bright and grainy. And if you want to see the pictures that I'm talking about, the Fuji Superia 200 pictures specifically, you can check out the hashtag JKV Superia 200, which is Jeankoolvlogs Superia 200, and you can see all the pictures that I took and what I did with them. So anyways, I hope this helps you out, and enjoy, and until next time.